To pull off 52 miles of marathons 6 days apart, which is a great way to get injured, but actually enjoy it, I needed to understand one thing deeply, and that's going to be the goal pace. And for this schedule, that wasn't going to be some average speed that I hoped to reach over the distance, definitely not a new PR. What I needed was an actual hardest pace that was sustainable over this period, which I'll say is a lot easier to say than execute. Now, I've never tried a schedule like this before. I thought that the actual results would show if I pulled this off successfully. Like, if I fell apart or I picked up an overuse injury, I straight up failed. And if I ran one marathon faster than the other, then I could have paced better, because the goal here was consistency. Now, I don't want to get too deep into science of this, not in this video, but I decided I'm going by heart rate rather than speed. That way, my body gives feedback. So if I'm like pushing too hard through hills or cardiac drift, I'll have numbers telling me before it's too late, which in a weird way, endurance pacing by heart rate gets to be a lot like driving a car. Like, you want speed, but not to redline the engine forever, because eventually otherwise something breaks, and the same goes with your heart. You run at max for too long and eventually you're going to need to stop. Now, based on my training and leftover fitness after last September's Sydney Marathon, I felt pretty confident that if I kept mine under 152 beats per minute, ideally around 135 to 145, that I'd be at the right place to sustain that effort for hours. Runners will call this area Zone 3. And after enough training, you can even feel where that zone is, and it gets very developed. You can do a lot in that period. So you are pushing, but systems will still hold together, mostly like with a steady nutrition plan. Oh, excuse me there. Like before, okay. Oh. So with the steady nutrition plan before and during the race, energy can keep cycling in fast enough to keep moving for stupidly long. That's the idea. Like, you keep taking in fuel and pretty much your engine can tank through a lot more than if you don't. And training increases your ability to do that. So my last lab to test all of this was going to be this trail half marathon in Westchester called the Paine to Paine. It's named after Thomas Paine, one of America's original revolutionaries, whose cottage sits right at the start of this race. It's now a museum today. It's about a 35-minute train ride from Grand Central Station in New York, and the event has this distinctly American feel. There's lots of great characters, community, and town support. There's even a camp out the night before, and you could tell by race morning people have already bonded. But despite what opening footage might suggest, the Paine to Paine isn't a road race. Some runners are going to be moving over rocks, roots, dirt, really going to have to watch their step because it's all terrain that demands attention. Like, for context, too, the Staten Island Half Marathon was canceled the same morning. The forecast was that bad. And I had to recognize that maybe things will get wet. One bad step out there could really mean the Marine Corps in New York were over before they even started. But things were pretty. And this race wasn't about grinding. It was about, running naturally in nature. And I got to appreciate the same region where the Last of the Mohicans was set. And at times, it felt like it was lots of great pathing through nature, like foot placement that feels like dancing because you're letting downhills flow without losing control. Something else that stood out too, even out on the narrow trails, runners were not fighting each other for space. Like, we moved together, but even in tight sections, not at any point, nobody got in anybody's way. The Paine to Paine also climbs more steeply per mile than the New York Marathon. I want to point that out because elevation is something to take seriously. But still, somewhere out there on those trails, I felt that pace click. Now, it's not flashy, it's not PR speed, but it's alive and sustainable. And you could tell because most of my footage is just quiet nature in running. Anyway, the real test came afterward. The next couple of mornings, I was very sore. Worse than a long run day, but definitely not wrecked. And by Tuesday, Wednesday, all right, I feel like the theory was working out. At least I tested it out, and I had a reason to believe that I could not only make it through the next 2 races, but I might even enjoy them. So, I will say it's really good value. The Paine to Paine is going to always be one of my favorite races now for a lot of reasons. But in this case, it was just the ramp up. I was only 13 miles into 65, and the next weekend was the 50th anniversary of the Marine Corps Marathon. And I was about to find out if that sustainable fun pace stays fun on concrete and at twice the distance.